Right, good evening. Hello, happy Sunday afternoon, at least here where I am at this point in time. My name is Utibe, and love as a KPI is hinged on the premise that when businesses are primarily driven by love for people, not solely driven, but primarily driven by love for people. Again, people could be customers, employees, it's people, just humans. That will yield even better outcomes for the organizations financially, operationally, strategically, and for the people in those businesses themselves, all because all those outcomes that we want are driven by people. And so if you love people, you leave them better than when you found them, and you encourage them and you establish them and you esteem them. They will respond with loyalty, they will respond with engagement, they will respond with de-risking, doing the right thing. Like, they will respond. That is the premise of love as a KPI. And I recently wrote an article in the newsletter titled "It's Not Simple," or it may be simple, but it ain't easy. And that article basically starts to pick at this notion of love as a simple thing, right? Even the premise I just shared about is pretty simple. If you sort of say it, it's like be driven by love for people, but it's not necessarily easy. And the idea for that article is really driven by some conversations that I've had. The more I've shared about love as a KPI, I've been really amazed to talk to so many different leaders in so many different spheres. And every once in a while, the thought around, oh, this is about, a good, warm, fuzzy feeling comes. And I understand completely why that notion exists. But I do think that that's a, potentially dangerous, truly, like, misconception about love, that it's this easy, feely, warm, fuzzy, frivolous, soft skill, whatever that means, thing. Because the deduction from that could then be, well, that stuff has no place in business and organizational effectiveness. It's too stark of a contrast from, like, whether it's hard physical work or hard intellectual work. And so I wrote that's the purpose of the article. And so there are three things that I just called out. I won't go through it in detail. For that detail, of course, the article is there. But one, love is not an excuse for mediocrity. So this idea of, if love is about just making people feel good, and so you can't challenge, you don't call people higher, you don't expect excellence, and that's absolutely not true. At least the definition of love that we use here, and just for clarity, that definition is love is the outcome of the perspective of the posture, and of course then the practice, the practical things that prioritizes the true needs and betterment of another person. So love is always about another person. And so the first thing I called out in the article, it's not an excuse for mediocrity. It's not the thing that, this idea of I love you, and so therefore I love people, we won't challenge them, we won't expect excellence, we won't call people up to who they really are, right? Not call them out, but call them up. That's not true. Love, because it's about the betterment of another, is completely interested in having everyone be better, whether that they're a colleague or employee or customer. In whatever way you can influence their betterment, you're solving for that. So it's not an excuse for mediocrity. In fact, it's the antithesis of mediocrity. It's not. You can't truly. If we think about how we've been loved as people, whether it's through parents, teachers, coaches, bosses, friends, even companies as a conduit to love, they always leave us better. Love will absolutely leave you better. Number two that I called out, love is not always comfortable. So it's not your comfort zone. It's not a passive posture of like whatever is comfortable, whatever is easy. It actually is the opposite. Love requires a lot of courage, to step out into outside of a comfort zone and either say or do the thing that is absolutely for the betterment of another person, but they may not even like it. They may not even welcome it. And so I talk a little bit about that. Love is not about your comfort zone. It does require courage. If we think about whether it's people who live their lives in service of others and literally loving other people, it's often not something that's comfortable or easy to do. And that's what I mean by love. And I know the good thing about, going into creating love as a KPI, I went into it eyes wide open. I do know the word love has many different meanings and connotations. And so that's why I actually established a definition. And so it's not a comfort zone thing. It's not comfortable. And last but not least, it's more than a feeling. And again, I understand this. There's many, many songs about love, many books about love. And a lot of it is about this feeling, something that you feel. And at least here, with this work, we're not talking about a feeling. Of course, the act of loving someone can create feelings, whether it's within that person that's receiving or the people that are receiving or the people that are giving. But the feeling itself is not love, because again, as I said, there's nothing that's sustainable that can be based solely on feelings, because we may not always feel the thing. You know what I mean? And so feelings are an essential part of the human experience. I talk about that. They're very useful, but love is not a feeling, at least as we talk about it or meaning it here. And so it doesn't require a certain personality. You don't have to be a feeler on the Myers-Briggs scale to love. You don't have to. There's no requirement of a feeling. It's not it's not a thing that you can say that this is a loving act. That's why I say it's the perspective, it's the posture, and it's the practice of prioritizing the needs of another. Truly, so it's evident. It's in the intention, right? And I know that there are things that, I'm not saying that love feels bad, right? I'm not talking about subjugation or degradation of a person. You will know love, you will recognize love by the intention. And it doesn't mean it will feel good, right? I don't want to wake up at 4 a.m. to train for a half marathon. I don't want to discipline myself. Those things don't necessarily feel good, but I know that it's for my betterment. And so love is not a feeling as well. And so those are the things I talk about, again, trying with our, piece by piece to sort of unlock or change this paradigm about love. There's this soft thing that has no place in the course of business, and it has no real connection to the practical, but it's absolutely essential for the practical. Thank you for listening. And of course, if you want more information or more details, the article is there. It's called "It May Be Simple, but It Ain't Easy." Just thought I would do a quick video to voice it over.